Welcome to the deep dive, where we take vast, complex amounts of information, distill it down to its most crucial elements, and deliver the concentrated knowledge you need to feel genuinely well-informed.
Today, we are immersing ourselves in a subject that has been central to human civilization for millennia.
Yeah.
Yet it also remains right at the forefront of agricultural science and, quality control.
We're talking about the sublime and scientific world of olive oil,
That's it.
and that's exactly right. We've been handed this comprehensive stack of sources. I mean, articles covering everything from the precise size of global farm acreage all the way to the cutting-edge methods of molecular spectroscopy used in testing. It's a really deep, rich topic.
So our mission today is to give you a quick yet thorough understanding of the entire international olive oil market.
Right.
We are going to dive into the intricate science used to classify its quality, explore the really demanding human element of sensory evaluation, and then uncover some of the surprising facts and detailed data that govern this entire fascinating ecosystem.
It truly is a phenomenon. I mean, it's often called liquid gold. And that nickname really reflects its value, its ancient history, and its central role not just as a condiment, but as a pillar of culture, nutrition, and even global economics.
To really get the weight of this industry, you have to start with its history. When we talk about olive oil, we're reaching way back into the past.
How far back?
We're talking about cultivation that dates back to the Neolithic period. So originating in Asia Minor and the Eastern Mediterranean, think modern-day Syria and the Levant, about 8,000 years ago.
8,000 years, that deep history is, I mean, that has to be key to its global spread.
Well, completely. From that core origin, cultivation didn't just stay put. It really became a defining feature of Mediterranean life. It moved west, spreading through North Africa to Egypt, Libya, Morocco, and eventually southern Spain.
And at the same time, it was moving across Turkey and into Greece and Italy.
Exactly. Into the major islands of the Aegean and the Tyrrhenian Seas, establishing itself so firmly there.
And its ancient utility was just astonishingly broad, wasn't it? It went way beyond its modern kitchen role.
Far beyond. The sources highlight that historically it was, of course, essential for daily nutrition and for preserving food, which was a technological marvel in itself before refrigeration.
But the use is extended into medicine, too. I saw that not just the oil, but the leaves of the olive tree were used in traditional medication.
Yes. And then you had the practical, everyday household applications. I mean, oil was used for the care of floors, especially valuable marble floors and leather goods, even weaponry. It was a vital, multi-purpose industrial lubricant and sealant.
And culturally, it was just indispensable. It served as lamp oil, right?
Wow.
Providing light that extended the workday.
It allowed reading or weaving after sunset. But more profoundly, it carried this immense religious and spiritual weight. It was used as an offering to the gods and was frequently included as a funerary object.
Symbolizing eternal life, or maybe accompaniment for the dead on their journey.
Something like that. It's incredible. The olive tree was often revered by ancient peoples. Some considered it the king of trees. It literally touched every single aspect of life: sustenance, health, light, trade, spirituality.
So for this deep dive, we are charting its course from that 8,000-year-old tradition right up to the modern lab bench.
We will cover the global production landscape, the vast difference between, say, a 3-hectare farm and a 130-hectare industrial operation. Then we'll dive into the cutting-edge chemistry used for authentication.
Explore the rigorous human element of sensory evaluation, and finally, connect all of this back to the oil's surprising range of uses, from the kitchen to the medicine cabinet.
Let's begin by stepping out of the ancient world and into the sprawling, highly competitive modern grove.
Okay, so part one is about the global tapestry. Who's growing olives where, and maybe most importantly, how. When you look at the sheer scale of global olive production, it's just a massive, fractured industry.
It really is. The data points from 2018 show a staggering figure. There were over 3.5 million rural estates dedicated to olive production globally.
3.5 million. That's a network of farms and growers that stretches across continents and, I guess, centuries of tradition.
And what's crucial to understand is the size of those operations. The total average size of an olive orchard globally is tiny.
How tiny?
Just 3.22 hectares. That suggests an industry just dominated by small family farms in the Mediterranean basin.
But that average has to be hiding some massive extremes.
It is. Our sources highlight that Oceania, which in this context we're really talking about Australia, boasts the largest average orchard size by far. It comes in at a massive 131.17 hectares.
Whoa, That isn't just a difference in size, that's a whole different philosophy, a different technology, a completely different economic strategy.
Which is why international olive production is formally classified into three distinct types:
Uh,
traditional, intensive, and super intensive.
let's start with traditional. That's the historical model, I'm guessing.
It is. It's still the most widely used globally and accounts for the vast bulk of the surface area dedicated to olive cultivation. It's characterized by low tree density, older trees, and often rain-fed conditions.
So production relies heavily on natural rainfall rather than irrigation.
Exactly. And that means lower but potentially higher quality yields.
Then you have the intensive and super intensive models.
Right. And together they represent only about 26% of the world's surface dedicated to olives. But they are, without a doubt, the future of high-volume production.
What defines them?
They're defined by modern irrigation systems, which support much higher tree density, allowing for way higher production rates and yields per hectare. And crucially, this mechanization and scale facilitate highly efficient harvesting and processing, which drives those processing costs way down.
So if a traditional Spanish farmer with a small rain-fed plot has high labor costs and low fluctuating yields, they're in direct competition with a massive Australian or Californian super-intensive grow that has dramatically lower cost inputs because of mechanization.
That tension right there between high-cost, high-tradition and low-cost, high-efficiency is really the defining economic feature of the modern olive oil market.
And we can see this play out when we look at the regional production hotspots. Let's start with the undisputed heavyweight champion, Spain.
Absolutely. Spain is the largest producer globally. It consistently supplies nearly half of the world's commercial olive oil.
And that dominance is geographically concentrated, isn't it?
Very much so. Roughly 40% of Spain's total agricultural surface area is planted with olive trees, and the bulk of that production is concentrated in the Andalusia region.
What's fascinating about Andalusia is that it also holds the highest number of protected designations of origin, or PDOs, for olive oil within Spain.
Which highlights that Spain somehow manages to maintain this massive industrial scale while also preserving strict, regionally defined quality standards.
So what are their signature cultivars? What are they growing?
The Spanish ecosystem relies on four dominant varieties: Picul, Cornicabra, Hoja Blanca, and Arbequina.
Picul is the big one.
The Picul is particularly notable for its high stability and intense flavor, which is a major reason why Spanish oils have such a long shelf life. But Arbequina is also interesting. The name literally means the Arab olive, which underlines that lasting cultural influence from the Islamic Golden Age in Iberia.
Okay, now let's travel east, back toward that historical center, to Turkey.
Turkey is a significant player. They produce about 145,000 tons of oil on 500,000 hectares. But their yield is pretty low compared to Spain's intensive groves.
Why is that?
That low yield, it's often driven by alternate bearing cycles and low density, is largely because Turkish orchards are mostly dry farmed. The main cultivar is Ayvalık. They're prioritizing traditional methods over high-volume irrigation.
Okay, so if we move down to Morocco, we see that split between tradition and modernity playing out in some really dramatic numbers.
We do. Morocco dedicates 600,000 hectares to olives, yielding between 60,000 and 108,000 tons of oil, and that's primarily from the Moroccan Picholine cultivar.
But the striking statistic for me is the infrastructure. Morocco operates 350 modern, high-efficiency processing plants.
Right, but running concurrently with those modern mills are 16,000 traditional presses.
16,000. That's not just a historical footnote. That's thousands of small, rural producers whose income relies on these ancient methods.
It's a staggering example of tradition holding strong against the modern industrial current.
Meanwhile, Portugal, another key European producer, has 430,000 hectares dedicated to olives, producing 50,000 to 80,000 tons, mainly from the Galega vulgar.
And Portugal really exemplifies the recent trend of adopting efficiency. While they maintain their traditional cultivar, new plantings are often adopting high-performing Spanish cultivars, like Arbequina or Picul.
Specifically where new irrigation systems are being installed.
Exactly. It's a pragmatic, economic choice to boost yields wherever possible.
And let's not forget Australia, which represents that new hyper-efficient paradigm we mentioned earlier. With only about 30,000 hectares, they produce 18,000 tons of oil.
Their story is all about efficiency. The key differentiator is their extraordinarily high mean fruit yield, about 10 tons per hectare, sometimes ranging up to 16.
Okay, compare that to the French average of 0.7 tons per hectare, and you just see the massive difference modern agronomy makes.
So how do they achieve that?
Through medium-density orchards that are perfectly suited for mechanization, they utilize those massive, custom-built, over-the-row harvesters, often nicknamed the Colossus harvesters.
They just drive over the rows and strip the fruit.
Right. It dramatically reduces labor costs and, crucially, allows for extremely rapid harvesting, which we know is vital for quality.
Their cultivar choices also reflect this efficiency focus. They're using Barnea, Frantoio, and Picul, all international varieties, adapted specifically for their high-yield, irrigation-constrained environment.
It's important to round out the picture with a few other specialty data points to show the diversity of focus. Jordan, for instance, counts olives as its #1 crop.
That's right, dedicating over 120,000 hectares to them, producing around 20,000 tons of rapeseed oil. That's a national agricultural priority for them.
And you can contrast that with Egypt. They have 50,000 hectares, but 75% of that is dedicated to table fruit olives sold whole, like Manzanello.
So their oil production is secondary, remaining relatively low at about 14,000 tons annually.
And then there's France. Despite being a center of high-end gastronomy, their annual olive oil production is minuscule, only 2,000 to 4,500 tons from 35,000 hectares. Their fruit yield is just 0.7 tons per hectare.
That low yield in France is fascinating. If their productivity is so low, they must be targeting an extremely high-end specialty market, prioritizing unique terroir and traditional methods where volume is simply irrelevant to the final price tag.
Yeah, they aren't competing with Spain on volume, they're competing on uniqueness.
Precisely. And finally, Italy, where cultivation is heavily concentrated in the south, features significant local cultivars like Moriolo, Lecchino, Frantoio, and Coritina. This diversity ensures that while industrial powerhouses dominate the global supply, the flavor characteristics unique to regional traditions remain alive and well.
That was a whirlwind tour of the world's olive groves. It sets the stage for the crucial next step. Part 2, the transformation. This is the process of harvesting, extraction, and waste synthesis, where quality is truly made or, instantly destroyed.
And the first step is non-negotiable. Harvesting for quality. The entire point of careful harvesting is to obtain oil that is rich in healthy compounds, possesses superior sensory properties, and, critically, boasts a long shelf life.
And the sources confirm the perfect timing for this. The ideal time to pick olives is when they are purple, that crucial transition phase when the fruit is moving from green to black.
Oils extracted during this pre-full ripeness phase inherently possess superior healthy and sensory properties because the concentration of polyphenols and other beneficial minor components is at its absolute peak.
So as the olive gets darker, the oil yield increases, but the quality measured by those healthy compounds starts to drop. It's a classic trade-off.
It is. The method of harvesting is where tradition and necessity really clash. Manual picking is described as the most suitable method because it avoids damaging the fruit and allows for selective, gradual picking of perfectly ripe olives.
But manual labor is, as we know, incredibly time-consuming and expensive, which is why mechanical aids are so popular.
Even the ancients struggled with this. I love that our sources quote Pliny the Elder, writing way back in the 1st century AD, warning growers, take care not to scrape and beat down the olives.
That's effectively the first quality control memo in history, isn't it?
It is. Pliny understood that damaging the fruit by scraping them off branches or beating the tree causes immediate bruising. That bruising triggers enzymatic activity, leading to hydrolysis.
And that hydrolysis compromises the quality and, specifically, increases the free acidity of the oil. We'll get into that in detail later, but it's the primary marker of poor quality.
Modern aids try to bridge that gap. Handheld pneumatic combs, for example, improve operator productivity significantly without severely compromising the fruit's integrity.
But the real economic leverage comes from mechanical harvesting using shakers. These are the massive trunk shakers, often equipped with that reverse umbrella interceptor to catch the fruit instantly as it drops.
That method offers huge economic advantages by drastically lowering labor costs and ensuring timeliness. You can harvest the entire orchard at the perfect moment.
But you can only justify that immense capital expense if you have sufficient yield.
Exactly. Mechanical harvesting works best in high productivity groves. You need a minimum yield of about 15 kilograms per plant to be economically efficient. This again pushes growers toward those higher density, irrigated intensive models.
And the data from the sources really drives home how these tiny variables impact yield. We have data from California showing huge swings in oil yield, the actual amount of oil per ton of olives.
Let's look at that data because it's critical. If you have overly green Gordo, the yield is incredibly low, only about 50 kilograms per ton of olives.
So that's a 5% yield. 5%. That is an agonizingly low return for the effort.
Now compare that to well-watered green Ascalano or deficit-irrigated Frantoio or Licino, where the yield jumps dramatically to 140 kilograms per ton, or 14%.
And the difference between that 5% and 14% isn't just a number. It's the difference between a farm making a profit and facing financial ruin. It dictates the quality choices they can afford to make.
It also shows that simply overwatering or letting the olives get too ripe isn't always the answer for yield. Overwatered, very ripe Arbequina or Manzanello, for example, yield about 100 kilograms and so 10%.
Better than the very green olives, but still far short of the optimal 14% seen in carefully managed green olives.
Optimal yield requires perfect timing and perfect water management.
Once harvested, the countdown is on. The olives must head immediately to the mill. Let's talk about extraction, which has evolved from, ancient foot crushing to modern centrifuges.
We hear the term cold pressing all the time. But what are the three foundational parts of that modern extraction process, regardless of the machinery?
Okay, so the three parts are, first, crushing the olives into a paste historically done with stone rollers, now with metal crushers.
Second, extracting the oil from the paste, which is done by squeezing or centrifugation. If the temperature of the paste is kept below the defined standard, usually around 27 degrees Celsius or 80 degrees Fahrenheit, it qualifies as cold pressing.
And third, separating the oil from the vegetative water that is naturally present in the olive fruit.
That sounds simple, but managing those steps efficiently for quality requires extreme skill. Which brings us to the crucial figure, the master miller.
The master miller, like Juan Jose Alonso, who won awards for his work in 2013 and 2014, is the operational genius.
They are responsible for optimizing every single machine setting, the crushing time, the malaxation time, which is the gentle stirring of the paste, the temperature and the centrifugation speed, all to ensure the highest yield of quality extra virgin olive oil.
And modern mills overwhelmingly use continuous flow processing machinery, heavily relying on centrifugation. We need to distinguish clearly between the two major systems, two-phase and three-phase decanters.
This is a critical distinction, especially when you think about environmental impact. The two-phase decanters produce two outflows, the oil and a water-solid mixture called pomace.
And the key benefit,
They use minimal additional water in the process.
which is great for sustainability, but I assume handling that sludge-like pomace is a challenge.
It is. Conversely, three-phase decanters separate the outflow into three distinct streams: oil, wet pomace, the solids, and a lot more water. They produce significantly more wastewater, over 100 liters per 100 kilograms of olives processed.
That sounds incredibly inefficient and environmentally taxing.
It is, which is why there's a huge push toward two-phase systems. However, three-phase systems can reduce their water use substantially, sometimes down to about 35 liters per 100 kilograms, if highly efficient water recycling measures are implemented within the mill. The type of mill often just reflects the age and location of the operation.
Okay, so once the oil leaves the decanter, it goes into a deposit tank for clarification. Why, if we've just put it through a high-speed centrifuge, is the oil coming out cloudy?
That cloudiness is a direct consequence of the rapid centrifugation speed. The centrifuge incorporates occluded air and moisture into the oil, and it forms a fine emulsion. Even clean oil still contains trace moisture less than 0.1% and fine solid particles.
So you use sedimentation, you just let it sit.
Exactly. Simply letting the oil rest for a period is the technique used to settle these particles and air out, and that improves the final appearance and quality before bottling.
Now we have to address the environmental elephant in the room. Olive mill waste, or OMW. This is a huge volume of byproduct.
It's a massive challenge. Olive mill wastewaters have high environmental importance because they contain very high levels of organic matter, suspended solids, and lipids, and they're produced at exceptionally high flow rates during the harvest season.
So if you just release this into the environment, it can disrupt aquatic ecosystems and pollute groundwater.
Without a doubt. But the sources suggest we can view this waste stream as a resource instead of just a problem.
So what are the treatment alternatives?
The solid pomace can be effectively treated through composting, transforming it into agricultural fertilizer. For the liquid phase, simpler, traditional methods include spontaneous or forced evaporation in these vast lagoons.
But for modern, large-scale, continuous flow mills, you need more serious technology.
That's right. For complex, large-scale treatment, advanced physicochemical or biological methods are necessary, like specialized high-rate bioreactors. However, there's a major technical hurdle here that links directly back to the health benefits we were talking about earlier.
Let me guess. The polyphenols.
Exactly. The high concentration of polyphenols present in the wastewater, which are incredible antioxidants when we consume them, can actually cause acute toxicity and imbalance when they enter biological treatment processes.
So the compounds that make the oil healthy make the waste difficult to treat biologically.
That's the paradox. Finding cost-effective, sustainable, and environmentally sound solutions for OMW management is one of the biggest ongoing challenges for the olive oil industry globally.
We've established how they grow the fruit and how they squeeze the oil. Now we arrive at the checkpoint part 3, the sentinel of quality. This is where the reputation of extra virgin olive oil is scientifically defended against lower quality alternatives or, outright fraud.
This is arguably the most complex and important phase. To earn the coveted title of extra virgin olive oil, or EVOO, the product must satisfy two absolutely non-negotiable criteria simultaneously: rigorous chemical standards and strict organoleptic or sensory standards.
Fail one, you fail both.
Fail both.
Yeah.
Let's break down the chemistry first. The single most important negative parameter is free acidity. We need to emphasize this distinction. A healthy olive still attached to the tree has 0% free acidity.
So the presence of any free fatty acids is an immediate sign of degradation.
It is. It indicates poor fruit condition, maybe due to pest damage, physical bruising during harvesting, Pliny's warning, or poor conservation, meaning the olive sat around too long before milling. The free acidity level is literally a measurement of how much the oil has degraded.
So what's the hard limit for EVO?
The free acidity must be strictly below 0.8% mass to mass, expressed as oleic acid. And furthermore, to be EVOO, the oil must exhibit NO defects whatsoever in the sensory test.
And if the quality dips slightly below that?
If the oil is categorized as simply virgin olive oil, or VOO, the free acidity limit is looser, not more than 2%, and the oil may be permitted to have minor sensory defects. That 0.8% threshold for EVO is what separates the elite tier from the rest.
Beyond acidity, the regulatory bodies like the EU use other chemical markers to confirm quality and identify refined or oxidized oils, right?
Yes, the checks are extensive. Peroxide values must be low, specifically less than or equal to 20 mec O-rayros for EVO, which measures primary oxidation products.
And then there are UV absorption levels, K270, delta K, and K232.
Which are vital screening tools. High K270, for instance, is a strong indicator that the oil has either been subjected to refining processes or has experienced severe oxidation, both of which disqualify it from the EVOO category.
Because fraud is lucrative and can be sophisticated, standard screening isn't enough. The industry needs an entire arsenal of highly sophisticated and, I imagine, expensive authentication chemistry to stay ahead of counterfeiters.
Let's start with chromatography, which is all about separating components. We use gas chromatography, or GC, to separate chemical components based on their boiling points.
So how does that help us catch a fraudster?
GC is essential for analyzing the oil's fatty acid profile. Think of the fatty acid profile as the oil's mandatory identity card. Every oil type has a characteristic profile.
So if a producer attempts to blend expensive olive oil with a cheaper alternative, say palm or soybean oil,
GC can quickly detect that adulteration by identifying foreign fatty acids that simply should not be there. It's the primary way to check for blend.
I also see that GC is used to measure waxes and fatty acid ethyl esters, or FAEs. Why are those important?
Waxes, specifically those ranging from C40 to C46, are important because high wax content can indicate that the olive oil has been refined, as crude oils often contain waxes that are removed during refinement. FAEs are often used as markers of poor storage or poor processing, as their levels increase when oil quality degrades.
Okay, then we move to high-performance liquid chromatography, or HPLC. What's its specialty?
HPLC is primarily focused on analyzing the heavy, non-volatile components, so the phenolic compounds and sterols, the things that give the oil its health benefits and stability. For quantitative analysis of triacylglycerols, or tags, the main fat molecules, a retracted index detector is often used.
So GC checks the fat composition and basic integrity, and HPLC checks the beneficial and structural components. But the ultimate level of structural detective work comes from molecular fingerprinting, specifically nuclear magnetic resonance, or NMR spectroscopy.
This technique is so precise, it's like generating a 3D blueprint of the molecules. NMR provides detailed insights into molecular structures. For olive oil authentication, it can detect really subtle markers of sophisticated fraud.
What kind of subtle fraud are we talking about here?
The detection of esterified oils is a key one. These are cheaper seed oils that have been chemically modified, re-esterified, to mimic the structure of olive oil.
And NMR can spot these.
It can, by analyzing where the saturated components are located in the molecule, specifically in the SN2 position, which should be unsaturated in natural olive oil. It's also used to identify seed oils by analyzing 12 distinct peaks in the olefinic region.
That sounds like a scientific cat and mouse game. If the fraudsters are getting good at changing the fat structure, the science has to look deeper into the molecular configuration to catch them.
It absolutely does. And if we want to confirm where the oil came from, we turn to isotope ratio mass spectrometry, or IRMS.
What is that looking for?
IRMS is the tool for geographical origin verification. It looks at the subtle, stable variations in isotopes, elements like hydrogen, carbon, and oxygen,
And the ratio of these isotopes is influenced by where the tree grew.
permanently influenced by the local climate, the water source, and the soil. IRMS analyzes this ratio, giving the oil a permanent, unchangeable chemical passport that verifies its exact origin.
That's amazing. With all this data, the fatty acid profiles, the sterile composition, the molecular mapping, the isotope ratios, we are talking about dozens of parameters for every single sample. How do the scientists make sense of this massive data matrix?
That's where statistical analysis steps in, specifically using techniques like factor analysis and principal component analysis, or PCA. These methods are indispensable for modeling complex data.
Explain that for us curious listeners.
Essentially, if you have 50 chemical components, PCA can reduce that large matrix down to a smaller set of 2 or 3 principal components that explain most of the variability.
So it cuts through the noise.
It cuts through the noise, identifies patterns, and lets experts connect complex chemical results, like a high phenol content or a specific fatty acid ratio, directly back to real-world factors, like the specific cultivar or the agronomic conditions of the grove. It allows them to interpret the results with real chemical or agronomic knowledge.
The science is incredible, but ultimately the final crucial step in quality control rests not with a machine, but with the highly refined sensitivity of the human palate.
The human machine, the sensory panel. The International Olive Council, or IOC, mandates extremely rigorous procedures for organoleptic assessment. The panel is designed to verify the total absence of defects and accurately describe the oil's positive characteristics.
Let's focus first on the zero tolerance zone for EVOO, the defects. If an oil has even a hint of these, it fails. Two major ones stand out: rancid and winey vinegary.
Rancid is the flavor of an oil that is oxidized. This happens when the hydroperoxides in the ore fragment into disagreeable compounds, primarily aldehydes and ketones, resulting in a flavor reminiscent of old nuts or stale wax.
It's an unmistakable sign of poor storage, too much light exposure, or just age.
And the second major disqualifier, winey vinegary.
This flavor reminiscent of wine vinegar or sometimes nail polish remover is primarily due to aerobic fermentation in the harvested olives. This happens when the fruit is damaged or stored in piles for too long before milling.
The fermentation produces volatile acids, namely acetic acid and the compound ethyl acetate. These are classic markers of delayed or poor processing.
Okay, now for the good news. The positive attributes that EVO must possess, which form the flavor spectrum. The foundational characteristic is fruity.
Fruity is the set of olfactory sensations characteristic of oil derived from sound, fresh olives. The perception is dual, direct, so smelling the oil in the glass, or retronasal.
Which is when you hold the oil in your mouth, slurp air across it, and breathe out through your nose.
Exactly. And the flavor itself can range wildly. Sometimes it tastes distinctly like fresh olive fruit, and other times it evokes nuances of apples, bananas, pears, or tomatoes, depending on the cultivar and ripeness.
Then we have the tactile sensations that define a great EVOO: bitter and pungent.
Bitterness is a primary taste, not an odor, and it is characteristic of oils obtained from green olives, or olives just beginning to turn color. What's fascinating from a biological perspective is exactly where it's perceived,
Where's that?
specifically in the circumvallate papillae, which are located in that distinct V shape at the very back of the tongue.
And pungent is that distinct biting sensation in the throat.
Pungency is a tactile sensation, not a taste, and it is concentrated in the throat. It's what makes you cough. It's highly characteristic of oils produced at the start of the crop here from unripe olives. Pungency is directly linked to the presence of healthy polyphenols, so that bite you feel is the healthy compound at work.
The process for calibrating these professional tasters is incredibly rigorous. How do they maintain consistency across different experts?
Consistency is everything. Panel leaders must ensure the reliability of their tasters through constant evaluation. During training, candidates participate in sequential tasting sessions. They're presented with tasting glasses containing precise dilutions of a single attribute, say rancid, bitter, or fruity. but in descending order of intensity.
So glass number 1 has the maximum intensity, and by the time they get to glass number 12, the intensity is barely detectable.
That's right. This process calibrates their sensitivity and ensures they can consistently quantify the intensity of a defect or a positive characteristic on the IOC's 10-point scale.
And when they're actually sampling an oil, the initial olfactory test, the smelling must not exceed 30 seconds.
That's right. If they need more time, they have to take a short break to clear their palate and nose before trying the sample again. This just underscores the necessity of a sharp, focused, standardized evaluation.
It's genuinely staggering to realize that every bottle of certified extra virgin olive oil has passed this double gauntlet, surviving the minute molecular scrutiny of advanced chemistry and the highly trained, standardized sensitivity of a human palate. It's really the highest standard in food quality control.
It is.
We've established how they make it and how they test it. Now, let's move to part 4, the ultimate payoff. Why we treasure this oil, its role as a functional food, and its incredibly diverse applications both in and out of the kitchen.
Olive oil is recognized globally as the primary lipid source in the Mediterranean diet, and it absolutely earns its classification as a functional food. I mean, it offers health benefits that go way beyond basic nutrition.
We know it's primarily composed of monounsaturated fatty acids, or MUFAs. But the real health heroes, the compounds responsible for the intense flavor and the therapeutic benefits, seem to be those minor components, which account for up to 2% of the oil's total weight.
Those minor components are powerhouses. They include the crucial polyphenols, alpha-tocopherol, which is vitamin E, phytosterols, carotenoids, chlorophylls, and squalene.
And the phenolic compounds are particularly crucial, giving the oil its remarkable resistance to oxidation, hence the long shelf life, and its unique organoleptic properties, like bitterness and pungency. They're nature's perfect antioxidants.
And here is where the science gets truly mind-blowing. Let's focus on one specific phenolic compound, oleocanthal.
Okay.
Research has not only demonstrated that oleocanthal is a potent anti-inflammatory agent, but it showed that its action, the inhibition of QX2 enzymes, is the exact same mechanism of action used by the common over-the-counter anti-inflammatory drug, ibuprofen.
I find this connection genuinely astonishing. So the physical bite or sting that a taster recognizes as pungent is literally the sign that the anti-inflammatory compound is present and active.
Think about that for a second. It's one of the few foods where the medicine is detectable by your own tongue. And the research suggests that consuming just 2 tablespoons of oleocanthal-rich EVOO is chemically comparable to a low therapeutic dose of ibuprofen.
That so powerfully connects the oil's flavor profile directly to its pharmacological benefit.
And this feeds directly into the well-documented cardiovascular benefits associated with the Mediterranean diet.
When EVOO is consumed as part of that broader dietary pattern characterized by low red meat consumption, high intake of fish, vegetables, and those healthy MUFAs, it is associated with significantly positive cardiovascular health outcomes. The evidence is robust.
It is. One study referenced in our sources, the Greek-European Perspective Investigation into Cancer, or EPIC study, found a staggering statistic. Increasing the intake of monounsaturated fats relative to saturated fats was linked to a 25% reduction in mortality from all causes.
That 25% reduction is massive, and it just underscores the profound importance of substituting unhealthy fats with high-quality monounsaturated fats.
Furthermore, the phytosterols naturally present in olive oil play another crucial role by helping to counter the intestinal absorption of dietary cholesterol, which further contributes to healthier blood lipid profiles.
Moving from health to the practical applications in the kitchen, olive oil's physical properties make it far more versatile than many people assume. We often think of it as just a finishing oil, but it performs remarkably well in high heat.
It is extremely stable at high temperatures because of its chemical structure, its high monounsaturated fat content. This means it resists degradation and can be used for frying multiple times, more often than many other common vegetable fats, before its smoke point is reached or its quality degrades.
And when used for frying, it actually improves the final product. It forms a desirable protective crust on foods, like breaded meat or fish, which improves both the taste and the texture of the finished dish by keeping the interior moist and preventing excessive oil absorption.
Of course, olive oil really shines when its flavor is the star. We're talking about dishes like spaghetti aglio e olio, where the garlic and oil are the entire foundation, or richer, modern applications like a creamy whipped feta dip, where the oil adds depth and smoothness.
What are the best flavor companions for it?
Ingredients commonly paired with olive oil are timeless. Tomatoes, garlic, onions, lemon juice. The acid balances the fat beautifully. Capers, anchovies, and fresh herbs like oregano, basil, and thyme.
And for those who appreciate the simplest, most ancient applications, there's the traditional Cretan breakfast.
This is a perfect example of tradition elevating a basic food. It consists simply of virgin oil drizzled liberally on wholemeal bread, topped with a pinch of salt, pepper, and fresh oregano. It requires absolutely nothing else to be delicious, proving the oil's quality is sufficient on its own.
Now, a key safety point regarding preservation, especially for home cooks: homemade flavored oils. Our sources provide a stern warning that every listener should take to heart.
This is a crucial caution that cannot be overstated. When making flavored olive oils at home, you must only use dried ingredients, such as dried herbs, dried chilies, cinnamon sticks, or cloves.
Why the strict rule against fresh ingredients?
Fresh ingredients like raw garlic, fresh herbs, or lemon peel contain water. Introducing water into the oil creates an environment where molds and dangerous bacteria, including Clostridium botulinum, the bacteria that causes botulism, can thrive.
Because the oil acts as an anaerobic barrier, trapping the water and creating a perfect oxygen-free environment for growth.
Precisely. Stick strictly to dried ingredients to ensure safety and stability.
That is extremely important. We've covered its role in the kitchen, but let's circle back to its use outside the culinary world, connecting back to those 8,000-year-old traditions.
The non-culinary applications are surprisingly broad, starting with beauty and skincare. Olive oil softens and moisturizes the skin, helping to maintain elasticity and fight minor infections.
It's excellent as a gentle eye makeup remover. It dissolves oil-based makeup quickly and nourishes the delicate skin around the eyes at the same time.
It's also an excellent conditioner. When rubbed into the cuticles, it softens and nourishes them, promoting healthy nails. Similarly, it can be massaged into the hair and scalp to condition the hair shaft and promote shine. Some sources even suggest that soap based on olive oil may help prevent hair loss.
And we noted several interesting folk remedies.
Yes. In traditional remedies, olive oil is reported to promote wound healing and reduce the size of permanent scars when rubbed onto fresh wounds or dry scabs. The anti-inflammatory properties of the oleocanthal may be at play here, along with its moisturizing function.
It's also a common folk remedy for muscle soreness. A sore back, for example, is reportedly cured after a vigorous massage with olive oil.
And for pet owners, it has a surprising utility: a natural oil-based ear treatment. It works by drowning ear mites in pets by covering their breathing pores, suffocating the parasites.
Finally, even for household chores, it's a surprisingly efficient cleaner. Rubbing olive oil onto dirty areas of skin is considered an efficient and healthier way to remove stubborn grime compared to harsh chemicals.
And for those of you interested in history, ancient coins that have acquired a thick green-black patina can actually be restored to their original shine. You soak them successively in olive oil and lemon juice for a long period, followed by polishing with a soft cloth. It really is a multi-purpose product that maintains its ancient utility.
We have journeyed across 8,000 years of history, tracked the tension between tiny traditional farms and colossal mechanical groves, and toured the highly complex chemical and human laboratories that certify quality. So let's bring this all together.
The central fascinating synthesis of this deep dive is that inherent tension that defines this entire sector. The constant push and pull between tradition and technology. We rely on centuries-old cultivars like Bicol, Frontoio, and Coratina, but their authenticity and certified quality are now verified by sophisticated, expensive analytical machines that map molecules.
Right. The simple act of drizzling EVOO on a salad hides a world of agronomic, chemical, and cultural complexity. Because the EVOO designation commands a high price, producers are forced to meet standards, like a free acidity below 0.8% and absolutely zero defects that are checked by hard data and the trained sensitivity of the tasting panel.
And to reiterate the highest standard for the listener, the ideal EVOO is guaranteed by meeting 3 criteria simultaneously: superior sensory characteristics, so high fruity, appropriate bitterness, and pungency low defects, so that sensory zero tolerance.
Low free acidity, strictly less than or equal to 0.8%, and high polyphenol content.
And that high polyphenol content is the undeniable link to the oil's functional food benefits. The presence of powerful anti-inflammatory agents like oleocanthal, which we know acts similarly to ibuprofen, means that in high-quality EVOO, taste, therapeutic benefit, and market value are completely inseparable.
The health of the olive fruit dictates the quality of the oil, and the quality of the oil is immediately reflected in its chemical fingerprint and its sensory assessment. There's no faking a truly extra virgin olive oil for long.
So we've established that the oil's quality is intrinsically linked to the health of the olive fruit and its immediate processing, and that the modern market relies on hyper-sophisticated testing to verify origin and structure.
Considering the fierce global competition for that lucrative EVO seal, and the fact that sophisticated fraudsters are always attempting to re-esterify cheap oils or mask defects, how will the authentication methods, both chemical, like NMR and IRMS, and sensory need to evolve further to combat increasingly sophisticated supply chain issues and verification challenges in the decade ahead?
The next time you pick up a bottle, remember the incredible journey that liquid has taken. From an 8,000-year-old tradition preserved by small farmers, to a high-speed mechanical harvester engineered for efficiency, to the meticulous molecular analysis of a lab, and the highly trained sensitivity of the human tasting panel, all working in concert to certify its contents before it reached your table.